What's up, gentlemen? Welcome to the Dad Edge podcast. I'm Larry Hagner, your host and founder of this podcast show and movement. Today, we are talking everything leadership, and not just doing leadership, but being leadership and being an effective leader in our family. And I've got some co-hosts that you guys have probably heard in the past, as well as good friends and co-facilitators of the Dad Edge Summit. I have Mr. Jason Mckenzie and Jeff Bowman. So let's have Jason go first. Jason, would you like to introduce yourself, man?
Hello, guys. Happy to be here. It's been a little while. So as Larry said, I co-facilitate the Dad Edge Accelerator Mastermind for Business Dads. And Jeff and I have a business called the Ames Institute, where we help leaders learn how to drive strategies, shape culture, and engage and develop their people at the same time. I'm a dad of two teenage daughters, 18 and 17. So I'm almost an empty nester, according to my kids, who are always threatening to move out. So we'll see. Maybe I won't be an empty nester for long, but happy to be here and looking forward to talking leadership and the summit.
And by the way, my two oldest boys have just a mad crush on your daughters. So there's that. How's that for that? All right. So Jeff Bowman, what's up, man?
How you doing, Larry? Great to see you again.
Good to see you too.
Great to be here.
Yeah, you as well. You wanted to go ahead and introduce yourself as well.
Of course. So Jeff Bowman, I am up here in Canada. And you'll probably hear that through my accent from time to time. The words will pop out here and there. First and foremost, husband and father of three beautiful girls. Not husband to three beautiful girls, father to three beautiful girls. My girls are 11, 10, and 8. And what's really interesting about that is I think about it, Larry, when we first met, I mean, my girls were 3 years old in that age category. So we've been on this journey quite some time. I've been married to my wife, Marcia, for 11 years or so as well. We've got a wonderful relationship, and I would say it gets better every year, most importantly because of my involvement in being around amazing men here in the Dad Edge Alliance. So Jason already shared what we do in terms of our work. I'll talk a little bit about that later as it relates specifically to the summit. Apologize for my mic. My normal mic is out of commission, so if I don't sound as deep as Larry, it's 100% my mic and nothing else.
I don't know.
That's a lie. That's a
lie. You just don't sound as sexy. That's really all it is. It actually, I wouldn't either unless I had like this nice mixer and microphone. So how's that for that?
There you go.
All right. So let's get started here. What I'd like to do here is I just got off this an amazing podcast interview with a guest, and this is so timely because we talked about authenticity and vulnerability, but he had this very interesting concept around not doing authenticity, because tactically we can do just about anything tactically, but it's also very different when we are it, or we be it, right? So the theme of this year's Dad Edge Summit, which, by the way, this is our 4th Dad Edge Summit here in St. Louis, Missouri, October 20th and 21st. We're going to give you guys some logistics, but most importantly, here on the front end of the show, we're going to be giving you some tidbits about all the amazing things that we're going to be doing at the summit, and the things that the men who are going to be present and in the seats. I shouldn't even say in the seats, because I think we all know if you've been at a Dad Edge Summit, you're not in the seats. You are up and around, walking around, interacting, getting your hands dirty, having high-level conversations, getting ideas and strategy, learning new things from other people. That's how we run it. Your rear end is not in the seat hearing speaker after speaker after speaker. We do have some of that, but it's all about leading yourself, leading your wife, and leading your kids from a tactical standpoint, but also from an authentic and vulnerable standpoint as well. Final thing I'll say is this before I hand it over to Jeff, is that I heard this acronym, which is to be an effective leader for your family, you have to have a soft front and a strong back. Meaning a soft front for your family to land when they need your strength and when they need your leadership, and a strong back to be able to provide it. So without further ado, let's hand it over to Jeff. And Jeff, I know you're going to be taking us through some things, and this is going to be a conversational type of a podcast. You guys are going to hear us go back and forth quite a bit. But Jeff, why don't you get us started?
Yeah, thanks, Larry. And just gonna be open and transparent. You know, I spent 4.5, 5 hours on the road this morning, driving back from a client engagement, and I got into the habit with my girls, and 3 young girls. They love music. Anytime they get into the car, music's blaring. They want to listen to the latest pop songs that are out there. And both my wife and I now, when we get into a car by ourselves, or even the two of us, we turn the music off, and we just love to sit in silence. So anybody who has, younger kids at home for sure can probably relate to that. Even maybe some older kids, just sitting in silence. And what that afforded me to do was actually think a lot about what the Dad Edge Summit is, what it means to me, what it's an opportunity to do, and just a lot of reflection happened in those 4.5 to 5 hours. And so I just want to take a minute, if I can, Larry, talk about what the Dad Edge Summit is for me, what it means, why I think it's significant, important, and especially in this day and age. So for the biggest, highest level concept, I think, and everybody who's been to one or has been a part of this community or has listened to your podcast recognizes that this is an opportunity to come together, to connect with other like-minded dads, other like-minded husbands. It's an opportunity to collaborate with other like-minded dads and husbands, and an opportunity to co-create and elevate the way we lead, to your point earlier, as dads, husbands, as career professionals. And, one of the things, for the first time ever, an opportunity to come and collaborate and connect to business owners and entrepreneurs too. Yeah, we added an extra day on the front end of this year's summit just for business owners and entrepreneurs. And in reality, in full transparency, what we've done is opened up a day, which is the one of the 2 days that we bring our Dad Edge Accelerator men together in person to mastermind in person. We do it twice a year, and one of those times is right before the summit. And we thought, there's a lot of men that have an entrepreneurial spark or entrepreneurial nature, are business owners, are interested in business. Maybe some of them have side hustles. Then we thought, what better way to actually create, a day up front just for business owners and entrepreneurs to collaborate with other business owners and entrepreneurs, with that being the focus. Of course, we connect because we're all husbands and fathers first and foremost. So not only do we have the 2 days that we normally come together, if you so choose, there's an opportunity to come one day in advance as well. And I'll give you the date for that in just a second. But if I take a moment and talk about why this summit, this Dad Edge Summit, is different in my mind from most events or summits or conferences that you will, or maybe you have attended, there's probably 3 reasons that jump out at me. The first is the approach we use, right? Which I'm going to unpack in a little bit of detail in just a second. The second is really the community of men, right? Larry, you alluded to this, is that people aren't sitting in their seats, they're up and around. It's this community of men that are coming together. And it's not just men in the Alliance or the Accelerator. It's men that listen to the podcast or have friends that know of the podcast, have friends that have been in the Alliance, so they get referrals. The community of men that come together that you get a chance to collaborate with is really the spirit of the Dad Edge, a community built on genuine, to your words earlier, authenticity, right? A community built on humility, and really a community. And I talk about, I've heard this from so many men, over the years through the Dad Edge, is this desire to be a little bit better every single day. Right. And then the third big reason I think, this summit, this Dad Edge Summit, is different than other events or conferences or experiences you might have been to, is that we have things like how we're kicking off the event at First Forum, right? Where you not only get to hear from a couple of amazing men doing some pretty cool things, but if you choose, you can get your blood flowing, do a workout, rally around other men, not just in conversation or hearing a speaker, but really take something to the next level. We saw that last year. We're replicating it and elevating it this year. And when you think about the experiences, it's not just the first forum. It's the opportunity to experience connection through lunch, through dinners, through the different activities that you have in and outside of the event as well. So if I go back to the first thing, right, the approach we use, and this is a differentiator, right? Jason and I have the great fortune of getting to design and facilitate events and group conversations for clients day in and day out. And the work that we do with the Ames Institute and the approach that all three of us, Larry, Jason, and I, are trained in is appreciative inquiry. It's backed by 30 years plus of science, and we pack that into the agenda throughout. The entire time you're going to be in the room surrounded with this community of men, experiencing the things you're going to experience. We're using something that's been proven in science to bring out the best in both men individually, and also the approach brings out the best in the collective group. It's just something totally different. If you've experienced it, you know what we're talking about. If you haven't experienced it, really encourage you to do so. When I think about it, there's something to be said about connecting into a shared purpose that is bigger than any one individual, right? And Larry, that's what I love about what you've created here. This isn't about you. It's about men wanting to be a little bit better every single day, approaching life with authenticity, curiosity, and humility. And so how do we use appreciative inquiry? How do we do it? By asking questions, right? We have questions that we will facilitate and conversations that you'll get into live in the event, right? It is not like most events you go to where it's speaker driven, right? It's an event driven by the conversations you're all going to have with one another in the room to bring out the potential that's already there. The potential exists, right? The approach will bring out and build on both your own and the other men's strengths in the room. It'll build on, both your own and the other men's aspirations in the room. It'll build on and from, the actions that you're going to take and that other men are going to take. The way we do that with the questions that we ask is that they're generative in nature, and we move your learning from, the passive, sitting in a seat, to experiential and active. Question, take time to answer it, and then we create the space for you to do the work that you're destined to do as husbands, as fathers, and as leaders in all areas of your life. And when you talk about authenticity, Larry, as the way of being, right? It's the same as appreciative inquiry in leadership, right? It's a way of thinking in a way of being, right? A way that we've seen in other years, I can't believe this is the fourth one already, that can dramatically shift the trajectory of your life, of your kids' lives, and quite possibly the lives of your kids' kids, right? Now you might be thinking, what if I'm not a part of the Dad Edge community yet? And maybe this isn't for me, but that's not the case. And we've seen that in other years. We've had, spouses send their husbands to the event, right? We've had and seen, men go through significant breakthroughs. We've seen marriages saved. We've seen men just come, despite their fears, create amazing relationships that start in the event, but don't end in the event. They continue on. We've seen men make significant declarations in these events. And you don't have to come thinking you're going to do that. And if you don't do that, that's okay. You're still going to have a voice in the session through the conversations. You're going to have smaller groups, and maybe they come in to the bigger group. We've seen men in these summits take action on things they've maybe been reluctant to take action on for years. Right? And the only thing really you need to do is have the humility and the desire to be a little bit better tomorrow than you were today. And when I think about this year's summit, what I'm probably most excited about is this intersection of the work that we do at the Ames Institute with appreciative inquiry and the role we play with leaders across organizations in the world with what is probably and arguably an even bigger and more important role we all play as leaders in our family life, right? To focus on individually and collectively the impact we can have on the world through fatherhood, to discover and build upon the best ways to lead ourselves and others in a way that leaves a legacy, to come together and not just talk about it, but create real action plans, to leave with tactics and to leave with strategies, whether they're big or small, that you can put into motion when you leave the event. And just like every other year, not only going to have those actions and tactics in farther greater detail than you've had before, you're going to connect with other men in person. And I'm going to be 100% honest, when COVID happened and everything shifted online, with the Ames Institute Adaptive Growth, the work that we were doing, we shifted everything online. We shifted a lot of stuff in the Dad Edge online. And I was thinking to myself, man, this is a lot less travel for me. And maybe this is a better way of doing things, right? But I can tell you all, after my very first event in 2021, again in person, right? My very first event that I had designed and facilitated, I just knew there was no replacement for connecting with like-minded people in person, right? You can't match the energy, the authenticity, or the deep human connection that we all need. In fact, I facilitated an event on Tuesday this week. An entire company came together. The leaders of that company brought 88 people from across the US into the room. And one of the things they were most energized by was the human connection they had in that session, right? I was starving for it before I had that first event, back in person in September of 2021. I just didn't even know it. And there's no replacement for coming together in person. And so my encouragement to all of you, if you're listening to this, come, join us, right? The event is going to be amazing. The connections are going to be amazing. The collaborations are going to be amazing, not because of any one individual, right? Not because of any one of us. When we talk about co-facilitating this event, we design and facilitate the conversations in the room, but the content and the learning and the wisdom comes from each person that's sitting in their seats or getting up out of their seats and having conversations with one another. It's great because of all of you. And as I mentioned at the beginning, if you're a business owner, you're an entrepreneur, and you want to take that part of your life also to the next level, you want to collaborate with other business owners and entrepreneurs, I encourage you, join us for that additional day on the 19th in front of the regular big event on the 20th and 21st. Very similar space, same location, same city, great city of St. Louis. Come together with other like-minded business owners and entrepreneurs. I can't wait to see everyone there in this event in October. And with all that being said, Larry, I do have to jump here in just a couple minutes, but thank you for giving me 5 minutes to go on a bit of a soapbox to talk about all the things I was reflecting on this morning about why I'm so excited about this event. And thank you, Larry, for creating this community, for being you, for being authentic, for being humble, for being curious, and for doing the important work you're doing in the world.
Just real quick, I've known Jeff now for, since 2016. Jeff, I'll never forget. I think it was in 2016. You and I were on a Zoom call. I'll never forget it. I was in my kitchen and you were like, at some point, Larry, you're going to have to start thinking about creating your own big event where we're going to have, 100, 200 people in the seats. And I was like, that just seems way too big. That just seems crazy. And here we are on our fourth one. And I agree with you. It is crazy. And I agree with you. The men who have shown up and listen, I'm not objective, right? This is a Dad Edge event, but here's what I can tell you. That's an incredible blessing working with men like Jason and Jeff. I've gone through the appreciative inquiry training now myself, but I've been to several events. Every single event that I've ever been to, with the exception of 2, besides Dad Edge, I sit in the seats and I just listen to speaker after speaker. And after a while, you start to feel like, wow, a lot of these speakers have the same theme, same message, very similar stories. I'm not exactly sure what I'm getting out of this. It's the interactions between those speakers or between a certain topic that we discuss and the interactions that I get with other people at the event and the connections that I make and the ideas that I get in that experiential learning environment. And obviously we provide that at Dad Edge Summit. I've been a participant though at two other events where it was like that. And those are the ones that always stand out as the ones that move the needle. Jeff, I know you have to jump off, but I just want to bounce around a couple of teasers for the men, that just some things that they are going to leave with. So if a participant is going to leave the event, what do you think that man is now armed with?
Great question. If I can just go back to what you were saying before, Larry, I remember I was sitting in appreciative inquiry training after we'd had that, dialogue about eventually, you having an event in the Dad Edge community. And I was sitting in that event and it was appreciative inquiry. And I texted you and I said, this is the year, because I had all of these light bulbs go off on me this is the approach. This is the approach that honors naturally what's already existing in your community, right? And I think that's what makes it special. It's not just the approach, it's the community of these amazing men. It's the community of men in the world that just want to be a little bit better in an authentic and humble way than they were the day before. So what are you going to come in with? What are you going to leave with? What do you need to prepare? You don't need to prepare a lot. Just come as yourself. Come as who you are. And I guarantee you, we will create the space for you to, connect with other men to a purpose around being a leader, as a husband, a father, in your community, in your career, in your business. You'll leave with a clear understanding of, what are those things that you want to build on in front of? What are those things you value most? What are those things that other men value most? What are those things that other men are good at that you can leverage? You'll leave with a picture for what you want to create. And this year, with what's going to be a little bit different in terms of some of the skills and the tactics that we introduced to you, you're going to leave with tangible things that you will put together in an action plan and be able to take into your life each and every day as soon as you go home. And I think that's what's different about this year's event from previous events. You're going to leave there with the ability to be more self-aware as a leader yourself, the ability to be more aware as a leader of those in your life. And you're going to be able to leave this event with the awareness of tactics and strategies that are going to help you connect, communicate, and raise, wonderful, wonderful kids in the way that they were meant to grow up, in whatever way they need to grow up. And I think that's what's most important, is that there's, as a husband and father, even with 3 girls, the way that I interact with my oldest versus my middle versus my younger is context specific. They're all different. And so we need to arm ourselves with these tactics and strategies, both from some of the experts in the room, but from the other men, because what you share, Larry, might appeal to Jason. And then when Jason interprets it in his own way and he shares it with maybe me, now a different light bulb goes off. And it's through those interactions that you're going to be able to put into motion, small tactics and maybe some bigger ones to set your family up and your kids' future families for a different life than maybe what we grew up with.
I completely agree with that. Jeff, I know you have to jump off here. I'm going to share a story probably after you go ahead and jump off. But in closing, because I know you have a hard stop here, is there anything else that you want to share before you head out?
I guess here's what I would say is, I know there's someone out there listening to this podcast, and I can think of someone in specific, and I'm not going to name this person last year, but this individual showed up and they came into the room and we had just gone into a break. And so they showed up a little bit late. They knew absolutely no one. Mm-hmm. They came by themselves. They had a desire just to learn, to be around other men that were trying to improve as husbands and fathers. And at the end of the event, that individual came up to me and thanked me. And I said, really, you don't need to thank me. You need to thank yourself for making the decision to come. because it's you showing up and getting involved in conversations in a really micro level that are facilitated by us, but there's no pressure to stand up in front of a group of people and talk.
Right.
Right. You know, for that person that's sitting in their car or listening to this at home, if you're on the fence, I encourage you to come. It could potentially change the future of your life and your kids' lives.
You know, I say this boldly and bluntly, and I'm so glad you actually, I didn't know what you were going to say. I usually never do. Just that's kind of our relationship.
That's the problem.
Right. But I will tell you, I'm glad that you pinpointed someone who didn't know anybody, right? Those are the men I admire the most. It takes a lot of courage to do that, right? But you know, the one thing I will tell you, you know, I can say this now bluntly, boldly, confidently, there is no potentially, you know, it could potentially change your life. It will change your life. We've seen it now. We have 4 years of doing summits and 4 years of data and feedback. And not once have I ever heard from a man saying, I'm so glad I'm so unhappy and I'm so upset that I made the decision to come to the summit. I've never heard that. It's always been the opposite. We've been blessed with that feedback. Thanks.
Let me, Larry, if I can share a quick story. Yeah. I've got 2 minutes here because what you said is really important and words matter, right? So thank you for calling attention to that. It's not potentially, it will change your life. The event that I did on Tuesday, 88 people in the room. One of the team members, one of the employees of this organization walked up to myself and the CEO right before the event was about to start and said, so you're bringing everybody in the room, he was talking to the CEO, to create the vision for this company. He said, are you nervous about what might happen? And we both kind of looked at each other and we said it with a very calm confidence. We said, actually, we're not. And here's why. To your point earlier, Larry, the data shows it. The approach that we use is built in science. And we trust in this process, in this philosophy so much that we've seen success 100% of the time. And it's not about me. It's not about Jason. It's not about Larry. It's trusting a proven process that brings out the best in any human system you bring together. So thank you for calling that forward.
You bet, my man. You bet. You know, I want to share a story here. And Jeff, by the way, thank you so much for giving 30 minutes of your time. I know you got to head out.
Thank you, gentlemen. We'll see you soon. We'll see everybody at the summit.
You bet, man. I'm going to go over logistics here in a few minutes. And I also want to give Jason an opportunity to chime in here as well. Jason, before I share my story, is there anything that you wanted to add to Jeff's message as well, as far as what men will walk with, experiences from the past, what men can expect for this summit? What do you think?
Yeah, I think, you know, I think Jeff touched on it a little bit. And I know one of the things we've talked about is, you know, really thinking about what leadership means from, you know, like, I guess conceptually, but also practically speaking, right? So I know the way we think about leadership is it's something that you make the choice to exhibit or do in every interaction that you have with another human being. So, and, you know, you have a million interactions with different people every day. So there are almost unlimited opportunities to lead. And what that means is, you know, you need a set of tools to be able to do that. And so what we really want to do, I mean, our whole theme or task of the summit, you know, the reason that we're bringing people together is to teach them tactical leadership that impacts generations, which means how do we give you the most practical, applicable tools that you can take away right away and implement the next time you have an interaction with another person, whether it's in your family, whether it's in your work, whether it's in your friend group, whether it's in your community. And so I think that's really important. And it reminds me of, you know, last year we had Meg Meeker as our keynote speaker. And I mean, she dropped a lot of really powerful wisdom, but the thing that really resonated with me, I was just talking to somebody about this right before this call, was that, you know, being a great dad. So we think about leadership, we make it this big thing. Sometimes we think it's bigger, bigger than us, right? And that, who are we to call ourselves a leader? And sometimes we think that about ourselves as dads. We have imposter syndrome. We think we're not doing it well enough, right? And one of Meg's key messages was, it's just about showing up. Like honest to God, just show up and do your best. And you're 90% of the way there. And it's, so I think it made it really approachable to say that, yeah, you know what, I can be a great dad. And it's the exact same thing when it comes to being a great leader. It's about the small moments and how you choose to show up in those small moments. So you're going to walk away with some very practical, easily applicable tools that you can use to lead more effectively, more often, with more people.
So you talked about generational excellence. I want to share a personal story about this. Now, luckily, I've been, the lead facilitator at Dad Edge, for quite some time, right? And I've learned a lot from the skills that we've been taught through our coaching discipline of appreciative inquiry. And obviously, I've learned a lot through you. I've learned a lot through Jeff, but obviously still a student of this. But one thing I can tell you is generational leadership, generational excellence. This is what it looks like. So I have a 16-year-old. I have a 14-year-old. I also have an 8-year-old and a 6-year-old. But this is how things show up when you do these tactical things. Not only do you do these tactical things, but you are these things. You become these things, right? You evolve into this person. So I have a 16-year-old. We're big on growth mindset. We're big on positive self-talk. And I'm not talking about like fluffy, like, oh, I'm special, I'm a unicorn or whatever. I'm talking about when things get rough and you're faced with adversity, we ask ourselves more powerful questions, more solution-based questions that's going to lead us to a solution versus a pity party and victimhood, right? So like, for instance, one thing, I'm not good at a lot of things. You know that, and you'll give me crap over that all day long. But there is one thing I am good at, and that is conversating and bringing the best out in people, including my kids. So over the years, I've done this all the time. Instead of asking my kids, how was your day? I want to lead my son to not only do gratitude, but to be gratitude, and also teach him conversational excellence. So I'll teach him skills like, what was the best part of your day? Tell me why it was so meaningful to you. That's leading with conversational excellence, because what I'm doing is I'm cueing in his mind, no matter how bad your day was, tell me about a high point moment and why you're grateful for it, right? Which, by the way, the byproduct of even just that one question, that one skill set right there, it elevates the connection that I have with him, the communication that I have with him, and the psychological safety that I have with him, because now he wants to talk to me. How excited are we when we get to share something really cool that happens at school? Now, if I ask him, how was your day? I'm going to get a fine, good, busy, stressful, overwhelming. That's what I'll get. What was the best part of your day? Tell me why it was so meaningful. I'm leading him to a different place. Now, when adversity strikes and he's like, Mike, he'll be like, oh my gosh, Dad, like, I'm so stressed out. I've got so much homework. Biology is overwhelming me. I'm in algebra right now. There's just so much going on. Instead of like running right in there, like a lot of us do, and be like, well, you should do this and you should do this and you should do this. And hey, man, don't worry about it. You'll be fine. Don't worry about it. Like a lot of us will do, right? I'll ask questions like, what's the smallest step that you can do right now to move the needle just a little bit to where you would feel less stress and less overwhelmed? And I've done that now for years. Now, here's where generational leadership shows up. Generational leadership. 2 days ago, I had a bad day and I was all in my head, and I went for a run with him. And he goes, and here's the other thing about conversational excellence, emotional IQ, and leading people. My son, who's 16, says, you seem off today. Is everything okay? And me being the dad, I went, no, man, I'm good. I'm all right. No. You seem really off. I can tell something is weighing on you. Like, the kid can read me. Like, that's a skill, right? And he doesn't have to do that. He's 16. I'll be like, I had a bad day. I had this and that go on, this and that go on. I was kind of venting to him. Do you know what this kid said to me? And it blew my mind. He goes, what's the one lesson you learned out of that adversity today, Dad? And I was like, I just looked at this dude and I was like, how old are you? And he just kind of laughed. He was like, well, you always ask me that. Like, what's the lesson? What are you learning right now? You know, and I was just like, God bless. Now, here's the really cool thing too, generational excellence and leadership. I will hear him talk to his girlfriend or a friend. And one of the questions he'll ask her is like, tell me about something meaningful that happened to you today. Tell me something that made you laugh. Tell me something that brought joy to you today. You know, so these questions that he has, and that's just an example of a few. And then when his girlfriend will vent to him about something going on, man, that sounds overwhelming. What's the best way I can support you right now? What feels right to you? And I'm like, holy freaking crap, man. Like, you're not barreling in, you know, solving her problems. You're making her feel seen, heard, and safe. You're leading her well, and you're 16 years old. Like, those are the types of skills that I want men to really think bigger. You know, when it comes to events or when it comes to personal development or when it comes to being the best version of ourselves, guess who's freaking watching us, right? Guess who's watching us? It's them. And how are they going to operate in their relationships? And how are they going to operate with their kids? These things, man, the things that the men of today learn, whether it's at the Dad Edge Summit, whether it's from a book, whether it's from a mastermind or from a coach or a podcast or whatever, these things are so important because it's bigger than us. It's bigger than us. It's even bigger than our kids. This stuff will spill over into our grandkids. We will see these things in our grandkids. And that's what I want men to really understand. Is that if you have, and you nailed it, man, if you have this feeling of, well, it's bigger than me, or maybe I'm just not worthy, man, you are worthy. You're very worthy. In fact, so much so you better care about it so much that's going to impact your kids and your kids' kids. The last thing I'll say is this: when you're impacting your kids and your kids' kids, you impact one man, you impact a family. You impact a family, you impact a community. You impact the community, you impact the country. You impact the country, you're going to impact the world. That's how we should be thinking about this whole fatherhood thing. The statistics of fatherless homes and suicide rates and being in prison and drug use and all kinds of criminal behavior, all these things, divorce rates. I think even if we came together and learned a handful of skills on conversational excellence, communication, the divorce rate, I swear to God, would drop from 50% to 40%. If just a bunch of us got together and learned some of these skills. That's the last thing I'll say. Any reflections from you on that? I'd love to hear.
Oh, dude, man, you hit on something really important there, because I think, you know, what are we trying to do? We're trying to take what we were given, you know, by our parents, and sometimes maybe it's not that much, you know, but we're trying to take what we were given and we're trying to move the ball down the field. Like, we're trying to take what we were given and make forward progress. And the idea is, you know, if every generation does that, then, you know, after a few generations, I mean, there's been a tremendous amount of progress. And I think that's how we evolve as individuals, as families, as societies. But with the work that with what you are creating with the Dad Edge movement, you know, you're giving guys a set of tools that allow them to take the ball way further down the field. So to take what they were given and go way further, way faster than they ever would have been able to. But the beautiful thing is, you're also encouraging them to bring their kids along with them. Yeah. So you think about it. I mean, I feel the same way as you, man. I mean, I look at my kids and I'm like, you understand things about yourself and about other people and human nature at 18 years old and 17 years old that I literally didn't start to understand until I was like 40, you know, and what are you going to be able to do with that? I mean, you literally have a 30-year head start, and I cannot wait to watch what you do with that 30 extra years, you know? So I think that's one thing. And the other thing I'll say is when we think about the idea of leadership, right, there's so many opportunities to lead. So it's not just in our own family, it's not just in our business and our work, but, you know, my daughters are, I posted this in the Alliance today, actually, but, you know, so when guys join the accelerator, for example, one of the things we get them to do as part of the onboarding process is we say, hey, Okay, we want to get you a quick win with your wife. So what we say, pick up your phone right now and text your wife, hey, when do you feel the most loved and appreciated by me? Right. And so then we tell them is listen to what she says when she answers, and then do more of those things. And then come back for the second part of your onboarding process. So we're going to debrief that. Like, hey, how was that? And so but that's a generative question. Hey, when do you feel most loved and appreciated by me? So my daughters they're 17 and 18. Like I said, they each have a boyfriend right now who happen to be best friends with each other, which is very, very awesomely weird. Yeah. Tell me about it. They actually hang out with each other, which I never would have imagined. But today I texted. So these guys I'm the dad. These guys are like really want my approval, right? They put me on this pedestal because I'm an adult and all that kind of stuff. And I texted them this morning, said, hey guys, so what I'll do is I'll text them these challenges or I asked them what they're doing to get after it for the day or whatever. And today I texted them, I said, hey, here's what I want you to do today. Okay. Ask the girls when they feel the most cared for and appreciated by you. Okay. Listen to what they say. And then my challenge to you is do more of those things for the week and then let me know how it goes. So what happens here, right? Well, number one, I'm leading these boys, like these young men, right? I'm showing them how to ask a generative question. I'm showing them how to, to be a good partner, a good boyfriend. But I'm also at the same time creating a situation where my girls are going to get treated even better by these guys, right? So that's leadership, right? And all it really was just taking a moment, taking a tool, the generative question that we use and apply in other places, and seeing an opportunity to apply it here and doing it, right? It's like, it's not hard. And so what we want you guys to do is when you come to the summit, right, these are the kinds of tools we want to give you. So you go we want to help you. We want to teach them to you and show you how to apply them in a way where you walk out of there and you can't unlearn it. You can't unsee it.
It's like the Matrix.
That's right. Absolutely, man.
So I know we're really hammering home the generative question skill set. We're going to be teaching you several others conversational. So like another just spoiler, we're going to teach you how to create an environment of psychological safety with your wife and your kids. Let me just explain what that is real quick. You want your kids to tell you absolutely everything and anything? Create an environment of psychological safety free from shame, blame, and pain. Now, I just gave you a mouthful of things. Let me ask you, the audience, this question. As you grew up, did you grow up in an environment where you're like, holy crap, this just happened, fill in the blank, whatever it is. You got in a car accident, you got a speeding ticket, maybe you got caught with drugs or got caught with underage drinking, something. It didn't really matter. Maybe you're dishonest about something. Who knows? My mom or dad or both can never find out about this because, and then fill in the blank, the wrath or whatever. Now, flip that on its head. Oh my God, I just got in a car accident. I have to call my dad. Oh my God, I just got this girl pregnant. I need to call my dad. He's the guy. He's the go-to. That when you create an environment of psychological safety, and there's an entire skill that's involved with that, where your kids feel comfortable to tell you everything, no holds barred. Imagine that connection. Now, here I am. I'm on the other side of this. So I've been doing this work now for 6 years. Dude, I'm telling you, Jason, I've said this many times on podcasts. I've said this in other arenas, and I'm not going to give any details out of the privacy of my kids. But I have 2 teenage boys, and at 14 and 16, my lips were sealed with most information. I walk away from some conversations and I'm sitting there thinking like, I cannot even believe the set of balls that my boys have, that they just told me what they just told me. I would have never in my life said that. And I remember reflecting that either, to you and to Jeff and other guys. And they're like, well, are you surprised? Like, the environment that you create through conversation allows these kids to do just that, which is to open up in a no holds barred situation. You're the go-to, but that didn't happen by accident. Now, most of us will go about that the complete opposite direction, where what we don't realize what we're doing from a leadership perspective is if we are slamming the physical, mental, and emotional front door on those critical conversations and those critical pivot points that our kids are going to go through because of how we react. And that is not true leadership. Jocko Willink will tell you, true leadership is being able to be calm in chaos. True leadership is being able for your team to come to you with problems or anything that's on their mind. That's true leadership. And we're going to be teaching you guys that along with several other things. But I cannot wait for this year because leadership is the theme and the skill that I've been excited about most. And we're going to deliver the hell out of that this year for the guys who are going to be coming to the summit and leaving with these skills.
Can't wait, man. It's going to be absolutely amazing. Always is, but it always is. And yet they keep getting better. So I'm super pumped. I'm just super pumped to see how this one turns out.
They do. Here's what I'm going to do, guys, as we close this out. If you are listening to this podcast and you're like, that's me, that's what I want. I want to be one of the guys who are going to change the game, generational excellence. Then here are the logistics. St. Louis, Missouri, October 20th and 21st. If you want to join us for the Entrepreneur Day, highly encourage that as well. That's going to be October 19th. What we're going to be doing on October 20th is we're going to kick this thing off like we did last year. Thank you very much, Sal Frisella, and thank you very much, Andy Frisella, for allowing us into the First Forum headquarters here in St. Louis, Missouri. Many of you guys are very familiar with Andy and Sal. They're allowing us to come into their beautiful First Forum headquarters. They have a monster auditorium where Sal is going to be speaking. I'm on leadership, and one of the best men to speak on leadership, in my personal opinion. He now leads over 400 employees over at First Forum headquarters, leads a business that is well over $300 million in revenue, if not more, along with leading his beautiful wife, Raquel, and his 3 kids that they're in a 14-month span, 3 kids in 14 months. So he's got two twin girls and an older son. But just a tremendous, humble leader. He's going to be speaking on leadership. I'm going to be speaking at First Forum as well to kick us off. And then we're going to have breakfast for you guys. And then they're going to take us to their indoor football field. And we're going to be doing a group workout with the First Forum team. Breakfast will be provided. Transportation from the Marriott Grand downtown to First Forum headquarters will be provided to and from. Buses will leave at 7:45 in the morning from the Marriott Grand on Washington and be back by the Marriott Grand by 1 o'clock. So we're going to kick things off with a lot of fun, a little bit of sweat, a lot of adrenaline. It's going to be awesome. And then for the next day and a half, we are going to be teaching you guys all the leadership skills that we talked about today and a whole lot more. Our keynote speakers, real quickly here, NFL Super Bowl legend Anthony Trucks, played years in the NFL. Also, he was on the Pittsburgh Steelers team when they won the Super Bowl. Just a tremendous individual. You talk about leadership, a man who had to lead himself out of complete and total adversity. His childhood will make you cry. On paper, this man should be in jail or dead, and instead became one of the most successful football players out there and the only former NFL football player to hit a buzzer on American Ninja Warrior. He has 3 kids. He's been happily married to the same woman for, I think, 18 years, and just an absolute ball of energy to be reckoned with. So the reason we're having these men come speak who come from tremendous adversity, who have been on paper should be in ruins at this point, how they led themselves out of that adversity, how they are leading their families, how they're leading their wives, how they're leading their kids and leading their clients and becoming an inspirational influence to their customers, to people online. It's going to be an incredible summit, my friend. Anything else from you? I know you're still trying to probably warm up after your freezing cold ice bath, for the love of God.
Yeah, I get back to room temperature. No, I don't think so, man. I think you summed it up beautifully. Again, as Jeff said, and I think you've said, I mean, if you are on the fence, just take the plunge, man. It's getting around a group of guys like this who are all there to try to do the same thing, to be a better dad, a better husband, and a better leader, is powerful. But also I mean, the energy in the room it's indescribable. It's infectious. It's you'll take it away. You'll take it away with you. And I mean, it's just such an amazing experience. So, you know, just if you're thinking about it, do it. You will be so happy that you did.
I'm so disappointed I took time out of my busy schedule to learn how to be a better leader and a father. Said no man ever.
Absolutely. Yeah. No kidding.
Right. Gentlemen, for all the show notes, and if you want to register for the summit, you can head on over. I'll give you two different ways. Head on over to this podcast, which is thedadedge.com/Friday68, thedadedge.com/Friday68, or just head on over. I'm going to make it real easy. Head on over to our homepage, thedadedge.com. Right in the top of the homepage, you will see a link and all the information right there to register for the summit, all the information you need. We want to see you there. I believe 70% of the tickets are already out the door, so you better sign up quickly. Gentlemen, go out and live legendary, and we'll see you at the summit. Take care.